My name is Heather Price, and I'm a walker between worlds. I do many things, and the things that are most important to me at the moment are being grandmother of 4 beautiful grandchildren, and I'm still mother of 3 grown sons now. But the most important thing that I do in my everyday life is listen to people, listen to what they have to tell me as a counsellor and as a mentor and as a shamanic healing practitioner and trainer. I get to hear stories that you may not hear every day, and a lot of them involve the voices that people have in their head, the ones that tell them to do things that they wish they didn't do afterwards, the ones that help to sustain them through daily practices, and the ones that take them in a different direction. And I have learned to teach people how to be prepared for that voice, because I haven't always been prepared for that voice. I remember when the voice came to me very strongly, that voice that told me to be alert, when I was standing over the bed, the hospital bed of my 3rd son, who was 15 at the time, and talking to his surgeon, a brain surgeon. He was about to have a second operation to remove a tumour that was very tricky, and it had wrapped itself around a vein and an artery in my son's brain. And it was life-threatening surgery, but it was the only chance he had to live. And the surgeon told me that I needed to say goodbye. We needed to say goodbye to each other, because he probably wouldn't recognise me when he woke up. But I heard a voice in the back of my head, in my heart, that said, there is another way. And I needed to speak up and say something to the surgeon. It was really, really important that I did that I found the courage to bring that voice out and speak up. And so I said to the doctor in that moment, as he was preparing to take my son to surgery, is there any other way than what you've prepared to do today? Will your intuition guide you? Is there a possibility that you won't cut that vein or that artery, that I will actually be able to have conversations with my son when he comes out of surgery? And he said, no, there is no other way. You need to prepare yourself for the worst. And both of you, and you, I don't actually follow my intuition. I have a plan. So we said goodbye, and then I went to the waiting room, where I waited for 9 hours to see my son again and to see the doctor, not knowing whether my son would recognise me. So 9 hours later, the doctor came out, and he said to me, Mrs. Price, I don't know how you're going to receive this news, but I followed my intuition for the first time in my professional life. And I didn't cut the vein and the artery. But I don't know where that leaves you and your son. I don't know what you're going to do, because I can't help you anymore. There's nothing more I can do, and he can't have more surgery, at least not right now. There were 2 voices in my head in that moment. One was really, really angry. It was the loudest voice. What was I going to do now? He couldn't help my son. I was the only one that could do that, and it was too big for me. But there was another voice that reminded me that I wasn't the only one, and that voice said, there is another way. And that is the voice that I have learned to listen to, and that is the voice that took me on a pilgrimage with my son out to Central Australia a few weeks later, or a few months later, and we did find another way. My son is 32. He's just had a scan. He hadn't had one for 10 years. And he sent me a text yesterday by chance saying, it's all good, Mum. Hasn't grown. We put it behind us 10 years ago and just got on with our lives. And so the last few months we've been working it out together, whether he'd have another scan, and he decided to. Good news. That voice in the back of your head takes a while to get to know. And It is the voice that will save you from so much despair. But you need to learn to hear that voice and to recognise it, because there are two voices that will come at any given time. One will come from the wounded heart, which is based on the past. And one will come from the true heart, which comes from everywhere, from the collective unconscious, from the great spirit within us and around us, from endless possibilities and miracles, that anything is possible. It is also a very grounded, sensible voice. It knows you well and it listens to you well, but you have to get to know it. So I really encourage my clients, and I myself practice, a daily practice of getting to know that voice that says there is another way. It's the voice that reminds you when you're walking out the door that you've forgotten something. And you have to learn to listen to that voice, and not to keep walking, to go back. Take a few moments, sit down, take a breath, and it will come to you what it is that you've forgotten. Often it comes to you when you're halfway out or onto a train, or, you can't go back and you think, oh, if only I'd listened. But getting to know and to listen to that voice and then to act on that voice will really help you. So prepare your day well and learn to listen to the voice early in the morning. Visualise your day and watch and see what is unfolding and what needs to be done. And listen to see if there's anything you've missed. That's what I do every morning, most mornings. I watch the day unfold and I listen to see if there's anything else I need to prepare myself for. That will help you get through every single day. And then you need to praise yourself for listening. And when those other voices, have compassion for them and remember to reframe them, because they'll be bringing you messages that aren't true most often. So you need to have a strong voice after you hear those less than compassionate voices that may give you an impression of yourself that is not true, or impression of the day that is not true. And to temper that voice with a loving, kind reminder that there is another way, that anything is possible when you listen well and you love yourself well. So I encourage you that whenever you feel stuck and frustrated and a little bit frightened and things have suddenly happened to you that you weren't expecting, just to stop and take a breath, visualise, be clear in your intention of what you want, and then listen for that voice that will show you the way. Thank you.